Hi and welcome to Vent, the program for the wider queer community. I'm Vivien Ward.
And I'm Chris White. Tonight we have a topic which has been quite hotly debated within the gay community: bisexuality.
Often described as sitting on the fence. Tonight our guests will put forward the truth and shall go about dispelling the myths and lies that have been told about bisexuality from those who count most the bisexuals themselves.
Joining us tonight is Catherine Lawrence from the Bisexual Youth Group, Kira Lyons, Jardine and Graham Saunders.
Now, maybe if I could start with you, Jardine. How long have you known that you're actually bisexual for?
Well, being bisexual to me is that I'm sort of half and half, in the half male, half female sort of thing, so that's about as much as bisexual as I get.
And how long? When did you discover it?
Probably about 7 or 8 years ago. I've only just recently worked out that I'm in this situation.
And Catherine, what about you? When did you discover your bisexuality?
Probably when I was about 18, actually. I moved from the country to the city to go to uni, and I actually realised there were options about my sexuality. Before that, I don't think I was really anything. I was just me, sort of thing.
Well, you still are just you, aren't you, Catherine?
Well, that's right, yeah.
Graham, what about yourself? How long have you been openly a bisexual man for?
As long as I can remember. I moved to the city too, I must admit, about 18, but I just assumed everybody done it anyway. I didn't realise there was different people until I moved to the city.
Now, there's a few questions that we'd like to ask other than how long you're bisexual, and there's things that if you're gay or you're straight, you tend not to understand, and there's a lot of mythology out there. Like, one of the things is, are you actually attracted to both sexes? Catherine, maybe you could, like, equally attracted.
Well, I think it does differ from person to person. I mean, first you have to pull apart what you mean by attraction. Are you talking about sexual attraction, emotional attraction, physical? Some people, for example, would identify as being more emotionally attracted to one gender than the other. Some people feel it is a 50-50 thing. Others say that they may be with one partner exclusively, but couldn't rule out the possibility of it being attracted to someone of the opposite gender. So it does vary quite a lot amongst the bisexual community.
Would you say it's more of an emotional attraction or a physical attraction, or is it pretty much both?
I think it is. Yeah, I think it is both. I mean, I think a lot of the time people are in a situation where they do have to deny that sexual attraction, particularly as you're talking about the mythology, where it's often put in a bad light to be attracted to both sexes. So often people do deny that the most strongly.
Would that be the same for the rest of you, Kira?
I have never really contemplated whether I was or wasn't. It was just something that always has been, and I would say it's a personality thing. There are people, people across the board, men, women, can have the same personality traits that you're attracted to. So I don't think it really matters.
And Graham, what do you think actually makes you bisexual?
That's a hard one to answer, I suppose. It's because I've never ever considered myself anything abnormal or different. There are different factors I look for in either sex when I mean, it's not the same thing, so I really don't know how to answer that one.
Now, there's some of the literature that I was looking through that I did get from Catherine, actually. There was a brochure, and on the back it had some of the truths and some of the lies. And one of the things was about sexual deviance. Now, I know a lot of the community looks at the bisexuals as sitting on the fence and not quite sure, and therefore a bit sexually deviated and would do almost anything sexual. Is that the truth?
Well, not really. I mean, by saying they would do almost anything sexual is assuming that no one else would. Like that, say all people who are either gay or lesbian or heterosexual are one thing and bisexuals are another, which I think in all the communities there is that diversity of people. Like some people are monogamous, some people are not. Some people preference one gender over another. Some people preference some types of sex or sexual actions, whatever. So I think that, like any other community, like the gay and lesbian community, there is that diversity. So I don't think we're sexual deviants.
Now, Kira, is it just that maybe you haven't made up your mind?
No.
Because I'm sure that people do ask you that.
I had a friend who decided to come out as bisexual because it kept the options open. And I think that's one of the problems you encounter with labels anyway, is once you label yourself, then you've got a fear of, it's almost like you're a liar. You said you were one thing, and then if you change your mind, then, you know, you're seeing, it's like coming out again. So I think some people do turn themselves bisexual so that they have that option, but I mean, I would much prefer just to not label at all and just say I'm a sexual being, and it would be with whomever I'm attracted to.
Is it more difficult to come out, do you think, as a bisexual person than it is as coming out as a gay person?
Yeah.
Yep.
I think because if with family anyway, they tend to think you're going to change back.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And it's difficult in terms of role models. Like, if you come out as gay, there's almost a whole community there where you can come out with that support of, such as venues, I guess, you know, idols, that sort of thing. There is that visible gay community. But if you're bisexual, it's less obvious. So it's really hard to have any type of role models. So it's like, well, I'm bisexual, but how do I demonstrate that? You know, do I wear a tattoo on my head saying bisexual?
I would like to say on that point that I don't think it's necessary to really have a community. I mean, the thing is, we're all human beings and we're all people, first and foremost. So you've got other people around you and they're your support group. You've always got friends who know you as a person and will love you for that person who you are.
How fluid is bisexuality? I mean, you know, are you sort of more usually heterosexual or more usually homosexual, or is it pretty much 50-50?
Depends on circumstance, who you meet, where you are, people in your life, really.
Right.
Have you ever thought that perhaps you were just one or the other? I know that, Catherine, you said that before you actually moved to the city and turned 18 that you just was Catherine. For the rest of you, did you actually think at one stage you were straight or gay and now identify as bisexual?
Well, I went through it. I went through a stage of where I thought I was just gay until I met my wife.
That changes everything.
Yeah, and she accepted me for what I was, and we had a good relationship for 8 years. So.
What about you, Kira?
Like I mentioned before, it's never been an issue as to whether I was swinging or not. It's just always been whoever I was attracted to, or whatever that bond happened, it was with that particular person. So.
Jardine, are things a little bit different for you? Because
I think they are different for me. Like, I was married for 5 years, and I've always preferred the company of women. And so now I find myself in a bisexual situation just because of coming out as a tranny. So.
Now, we'll really look at some of the myths now. One of the things that's certainly been said amongst the heterosexual community more so than the gay community is that bisexuals are to blame for the spread of the AIDS virus. Now, I'll leave that one open to whoever is game to answer it.
I'm not touching that one.
Catherine?
Well, I think it's pretty simplistic to say that. I mean, if you look at, you know, if you're going to get into statistics and stuff, you look at the higher incidence of AIDS, and it generally is amongst the gay community rather than, say, the bisexual community. And to assume that anyone is deliberately, which I think it does seem to imply that there is this sense of maliciousness there, spreading AIDS is just really quite farcical in many aspects. And it really stems from that view of biphobia, which is often quite pervading in both the heterosexual and the gay and lesbian communities.
Because being bisexual, you are often thought of as sitting on the fence. There's thought that perhaps that you're a little more unreliable than somebody who's made up their mind, so to speak, as the biphobia would suggest. Perhaps, Graham, you'd like to address that?
I think you get, in the gay community itself, they sort of tend to be very mistrustful of a bisexual person. But you don't get it so much in the heteros community. I haven't noticed it anyway. But in the gay community you will.
Now, does it really double your chance of a date on a Saturday night? That's the question that I'd like to know.
Yes, it does.
It does?
Actually, I wouldn't agree. I think you've been watching too many Woody Allen films, and I don't think his sexuality is anything to go by. Basically, because there is an assumption that, therefore, everyone is going to be accepting of you, when it can be doubly hard if you're an out bisexual at any rate, just, you know, going to say, in the sense that you do have to go to sort of often separate venues depending on sort of who you're attracted to at the time or who you're choosing to be attracted to. For example, you may have to go to gay or lesbian venues, or you may be going to heterosexual venues. So it really is a lot harder.
That was quite interesting, Catherine, you said depending on who you're attracted to at a time. So does that mean that you may be attracted to women for a period of time and then you may be attracted to men, you're not constantly attracted to both?
Well, you do have some self-control, you know, like you may be attracted to women, but that doesn't mean because you also identify as attracted to men that you're just going to go and jump everyone, you know. Like most bisexuals do have preferences at the time or at any time, and they do have that self-control that, you know, most bisexuals either choose to be in open relationships which are consensual or relationships which are monogamous, or whatever. I mean, most people do have negotiable relationships rather than just bonking anything that moves.
In that area of negotiation, do you find sometimes that you might have a male and a female lover at the same time?
Well, some people do. They have what's often called a polyamorous relationship. What it basically means is that you have a primary and a secondary partner of either gender. A primary partner is based on the premise that they're your I guess your main partner, and perhaps it may be a more of a love-related relationship, but a secondary partner is often someone that you are also attracted to emotionally, physically and sexually, but they may also have a primary partner, so that often it's not having two partners which have the same, I guess the same intensity in relationships, yeah.
Okay, well, it's time to wind up to a break again. We'll be back after the break to talk about more of the myths and also the discrimination that is faced by our bisexuals in our community and the heterosexual community.